Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and I wasn't going to do this video today. I was going to leave it a day or so, but I had a very mediocre session last night that's raised some topics that I think's pretty important to talk about, that I don't talk about very often. So yeah, it's just inspired me to do this. We're going to discuss the topics at the start of it, then maybe like review some hands, but like relatively quickly. There weren't too many interesting hands. I've got 7 down to review. Don't remember any of them from the top of my head, and maybe I will when I see them. But yeah, we're going to do that. It's going to be the format of the video. Don't forget to like and share and all those things. We're getting some lovely comments about this video format, so I'm going to intend to continue doing them for at least as long as I continue playing on Sky. You guys seem to like them, and yeah, so please keep hitting that thumbs up. Please keep commenting, and do join the Facebook group if you're not the type of person who just wants to go out and call everybody else a twat and useless fucker because they don't play the way you do. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get on with like what's inspired me to make this video. And yeah, I was playing last night, normal session, not much happening. It was like 2 tables, 3 tables, that type of thing, and I kind of started getting just a bit bored, and I took a quick look at Twitter, which should usually be an indication, come on Reggie, you're not focusing. Either focus properly or just stop playing. If you're not in the mood for playing, just stop playing. But I didn't, and one of my friends had made a couple of football related posts, and we go back and forth on Twitter all the time. We're forever like disagreeing with each other. It's always good spirited and stuff like that. But he'd made two tweets, one about Ryan Giggs' his loyalty to Wales. He was praising his loyalty to Wales, and I couldn't have that. You know, Ryan Giggs was not loyal to Wales. Ryan Giggs had a football career that spanned 20 years, and he only played 60 odd times for his country. That tells me he's anything but fucking loyal to Wales, and his loyalty was completely to like Manchester United. Fair enough, no issue with that, etc. But then we had a bit of stick going backwards and forwards with that. And the second point that my friend made was that Mesut Ozil is a great player. Now, I think Mesut Ozil is a good footballer. I think he's a lazy cunt. I think I wouldn't want him in my team. I think he's a good player when he wants to be, but I don't think he wants to be enough. And I wouldn't want him in my team. I wouldn't want to be playing next to him. Obviously next, I'd love to play next to him because he's a brilliant footballer compared to me. But I wouldn't want to play next to someone or in the same team with someone like him who had his same work rate as him. I think they're a disease on the team. I think what they bring is negated by, you know, the laziness, and I'm assuming bad feeling that brings amongst teammates, etc. And so yeah, we're basically hammering backwards and forwards on both Giggs and Ozil for a good hour, maybe more. And for that, during that time, my focus was just not on the games at all. I played like a fucking zombie passive autopilot fuckwit. And yeah, so I guess what I want to talk about in that is even when you're playing in soft games like I typically do, you can't just switch off from them and just sit. Effectively, what I was doing, I was just sat waiting for like big hands and hoping to get value. I wasn't focusing. I wasn't finding spots to bluff. I wasn't finding spots with thin value. I was just being a little bit stationary in spots where I should have bet earlier in the hand. Just played badly, basically. There's no other way of putting it. I just didn't play well, you know. And I was duly punished. I lost, I think it was 50 quid over the session, something like that. And I rightly deserved it. It's just the way it goes. We're not going to review all of the hands now. There's a couple of like standard flips that we're not going to look at. I think one was I got 2 overs and a second nut flush draw in, and the guy had a set or whatever. So we're not going to look at that because we don't look at coolers on here. We don't look at coolers. We don't look at like bad beats and stuff like that. We just try and look at the hands that are interesting. And then I think we lost like an ace king all in versus queens or something like that. Again, completely standard pre-flop situation. So again, we're not going to look at that one either because they were both genuinely just completely standard, and they happened more towards the end of the session when it was refocused. So yeah, we've got a few hands to look at, but don't play when you're distracted. If you start getting distracted when you're playing, if you start thinking, oh, just have a little look at Facebook, or just have a little look at Twitter, oh, I wonder what's happening on Instagram, or you start watching a TV or a film or something on YouTube, it should be your trigger to say, look, I'm not focused here now, so I need to either refocus or just allow myself some time off and not play tonight. That the pressure to grind, for a lot of people, they put themselves under a huge pressure to grind a lot of times when you don't want to. And I wanted to grind when I started the session last night, but I just got bored of it. I wasn't getting like many playable hands, etc. And I just found myself, I just switched off, and it can happen. And usually when I do start looking at Facebook or Twitter, I will be like, right, we either refocus now or we just can the session. But because my friend kind of was going backwards and forwards with me, etc., I lost focus on what I was doing, which was the poker, and focused way more on like the little Twitter spat, should we say? And yeah, it's a lesson that I've learned, and it's a lesson that I should pay heed to. But we're all human beings, and last night was one of those sessions where I let myself down. It happens. You know, it only cost us 50 quid. It's a pain in the ass. I'd much rather have the 50 quid than not have it. But hopefully it's like a lesson learned. And I played a session this morning. Nothing much good happened. We only won like half a bind or something. But I had no music on. I had no Facebook, no Twitter. I was just me and the tables. And I felt like I played much better. So yeah, make sure you're focused when you're playing. And that's a really important point. So anyway, that said, let's get into the hands. First hand here is going to be on table 2 against Wah, who seemed like a nice guy, to be fair. He was very sporting, and you've got to like that. So we open King Jack suited under the gun, completely standard. We get called from the button, and we're starting this. I'm pretty deep. We're starting at what, like 170, 160 blinds deep, something like that. So Wah makes a 3-bet. Normally that'd be a very standard fold for me in a 100 big blind pot. Maybe I'd think about calling if I thought some of these players were quite bad. I didn't know anything about Wah at the time. It's completely new to me. You Jericho on the buttons, and maybe I'd call here 100 blinds deep, but not as likely to as I am 200 blinds deep. Maybe King Jack suited just has to be a call, but we have raised under the gun. He has 3-bet out of the big blind when he could just have called. So we're going to have to assume he's got a pretty damn strong range, and if he has, King Jack's doing pretty badly against it. So I think 100 blinds deep, probably a fold. 200 blind, well, like 150 plus blinds deep. I guess we defend it and see what happens, which is what we did in the end. And we flop a gut shot with a backdoor flush draw. Wah bets just 240, which is less than his pre-flop raise. His pre-flop raise, which is again completely standard. I have no issue at all with this sizing. If we think Wah is like a really good player, this sizing is completely standard. If we think Wah is a sort of player who has some sizing leaks, then maybe something we can look to exploit in future. But either way, with a good shot, backdoor flush draw, and still 150 big blinds behind, I think we need to continue in the hand in some way. So I elected to call, and the turn is like a total brick. Wah checks, and I think at this point we can probably think about making a bet. I mean, we've floated, we haven't hit, our opponent's checked. I think this should be bet time, and probably in the region of like £4. I mean, the top of his range is probably going to be like what, Ace Jack, Ace 10. For his like Ace X's, maybe he just gets scared with Ace King and decides to go into like check call mode. So he can still definitely have a reasonable amount of Ace X here, but he can also maybe, depending on how wide he's 3-betting and what have you, and how good he is, it can maybe also just have some air that's missed. Some like pocket pairs that decided just to stab the flop because it's like good for their range, etc. This is the problem with him being an unknown. I wasn't sure like how he played post flop in 3-bet pots. In fact, I didn't have a clue how he played post flop in 3-bet pots. Looking back at the hand now, I know at the spoiler alert I didn't bet, but I think I probably should, and I think I should probably bet in the region of like £4, something like that. Ace comes on the river. And I was just thinking to myself, if he bets here, then we just fold, not a problem. But what if he checks? What do we do then if he checks? And I think that then we have to bluff, because I don't think he checks an ace again on the river. He might be scared with ace king on the turn or ace jack on the turn, but when he rivers trips, he's going to be pretty confident in his hand. And I expect him to bet all of his ace x here. If he was trapping with like a full house or something like that, like pocket queens or what have you, I expect him to bet, but basically I expect him to bet all of his value range on this river here. So he didn't bet again. So right now I'm thinking, right, okay, he has stuff like pocket kings, maybe pocket jacks, maybe, although we block both of them, of course, with our king jack. I think he has maybe stuff like king queen, queen jack suited, and again just some like random pocket pairs that bet, and on just some like random, I don't know, kind of like 10-9 suited, maybe something like that. So I don't think he's strong. I think his made hands are going to be like beneath an ace, just one pair, and I just don't think king jack has anywhere near enough showdown value here to just like check back. So the decision we're left with is, do we bluff or do we give up? And given how weak he's played it, like on the turn of the river, I kind of felt obliged to bluff, and then it's just a matter of picking a sizing. Now, if he does have a bluff catcher, we don't want to go with a small sizing here, because it just makes it way too easy to call with king, king, queen, x, pocket jacks, that type of thing. So I decided in the end to go with a pretty big bet, knowing that if he's got an ace, we're getting owned, we're like owning ourselves with our sizing, but to put maximum pressure on his like stuff that isn't an ace. And I think if this is up against like a pretty good regular, I think they snap me off here with like pocket kings, maybe pocket jacks as well, because they're effectively the same thing, because I wouldn't bet a queen the size that I choose. So I think against a regular this works less well, but against someone who might be recreational, I elected to go ahead and make the bet. He put us right in the sweat, sweating, and then he finally folds. And he did tell me, like literally like a minute later, that he had pocket kings there, and I can believe that, you know. I can believe he had pocket kings. He seemed like a nice guy. He took it really well. He got beaten a hand later, took that really well as well. And yeah, I thought that was quite a nice hand to start the video with, and we'll move on to the next one. So his next hand is on table 1. I'm aware some of you guys struggle seeing when we're 3-tabling, especially if you're using like a mobile device or a tablet or something. I do apologise for that. I commented on the last video when someone said they prefer the 2-table format. I think it looks much cleaner too. But I'm just recording my session. I'm usually playing 2, 3 or 4 tables, and I can't make them any bigger than this, I'm afraid, when I'm playing 3 tables. So unfortunately the tables are small. There's not much I can do about it, but I do hope it's bearable. So yeah, onto the hand, we have y equals mc squared, who's opening with the gun. He's definitely one of the weaker players at the table. So he opens for pot under the gun. Big Hawk just calls. Big Hawk's a good player. If Big Hawk had Jack's beat right now, he wouldn't be flatting versus y equals mc squared. He would absolutely be 3-betting him. So I'm very confident we're ahead of Big Hawk. The decision here is like twofold. It's like, do we just call or do we 3-bet? I think that's quite an easy decision. I think the 3-bet's clearly the best play. Even though like we've had a weak player pot it under the gun, and he does do a lot of limping, I still think Jack's is way too strong to just flat. So the 3-bet's easy, the sizing's relatively easy. The question is, what do we do if we face a 4-bet from y equals mc squared? And I think I would probably just fold it versus this player. I don't think he's going to be like 5-bet jamming, or sorry, 4-bet jamming or 4-betting hands worse than pocket jacks. I think like the bottom of his range for 4-betting would probably be stuff like ace king. So I think I would definitely look to 3-bet fold here, but something interesting happens, or relatively interesting. We have Spurs Mick in the big blind, who's yellow tagged. He's an incredibly weak type player. So we do go with the 3-bet. I'm more than happy with my sizing. Spurs Mick comes along just with the cold call. And for me, when regulars come along for a cold call in the big blind, they are, in my opinion, heavily weighted towards traps, like slow plays with aces and kings, and maybe like scared pocket queens. Like, I'm not saying that's exclusive to what they have, but the range is like so heavily weighted towards that. It's like a seesaw. You've got a fat kid and a skinny kid. You know, they're on the fat kid side here. That skinny kid's fucking up in the air with his legs dangling, crying, hoping he sometimes gets down when the fat kid finally gets off, and hopes he doesn't land so hard that he gets a sore ass. That's where we're at here with Spurs Mick. I mean, maybe he's bad enough to have like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s here, but I think it's just way more likely it's just going to have the hands that have the cure for 2 jacks, because he's just so incredibly weak tight. I mean, maybe he just always 4-bets here with aces and kings too. Maybe he just has like specifically queens and 10s. I'm not sure, but I mean, it just looks remarkably strong. It's been a raise under the gun from a fish, call from a good regular, squeeze from a regular. I'm not sure what he thinks of me, and then he just like cold calls. It just looks so damn strong. So I was already getting somewhat anxious about like where I stood in the hand. Y equals MC squared, calls, we call, and the flop comes down like queen, queen X, which kind of rules out most combos of pocket queens for Spurs Mick. So like, what does it look like now? What can we do with our hand? Should we bet our hand here? If we're gonna bet it, I think we have to bet incredibly small, to allow like both these guys to call with under pairs. If we check it, are we kind of just giving up with it? It's a weird spot, you know. It's a big squeeze pot. There's like 46 big blinds in the pot, something like that, is there? And we have an under pair out of position against 2 players. And this is a situation where a lot of the players that come to work with me and come for help, I think they really butcher these situations, because they'll just end up betting here because they'll just want to end the hand. They're in a weird spot, they're pissed off with the situation, and they're like, oh, we're just going to bet and just hope people fall. People literally say that to me all the time, and I'm assuming a lot of you guys who watch my channel will have exactly the same thought processes. They're not betting here to like get value, they're not betting to make someone fall better, they're just betting to make the hand go the fuck away. And that is never a good reason to bet. Betting just to end the hand. What you're effectively saying is, I'm just betting to make people fall worse hands so I cannot be bluffed. That's what people are doing here. I don't want to be bluffed, so I'm just going to fucking bet. And that's not a good enough reason to bet. Betting just to stop someone bluffing you can sometimes be okay. But this, in my opinion, isn't really one of them. I just think it's a pretty easy check and see what happens. We do check. Spurs make bets. And as nitty as this might look, you've got to go with your reads on people. Spurs Mick is an incredibly weak type player. He just isn't a problem. You just treat him like an empty seat, basically. So when the empty seat starts putting chips in, I start to get concerned. And I looked at this here. If this is like the last bet in the hand, then of course we would call it. But we've got turns and rivers to negotiate. I'm not going to know how to play on a 7 or an 8 or a 6 or what have you. I'm just going to check call down against someone who thinks like a massive nit. With the bluff catcher, after his cold call pre, and he can still have those kings and aces and things. Maybe he's got queen suited, ace queen suited. Not many of them, I don't think he's got that very often, but I mean, he'll have some, I guess. And I just didn't like the situation, and usually when I don't like a situation, I just get out of the way, get out of it cheap, and just think, well, fuck it, it hasn't worked out, and move on. And that's what I like to do very quickly. Once I know I don't like a situation, I don't dwell on it. I'm just like, right, whatever, it's a shit situation all of a sudden. I'm faced with having to bluff catch maybe multiple streets against someone who I think is going to have a pretty strong range. So I elected to just fold. And if he's like had pocket tens there and he's managed to take me off the hand, then good for him. But he has like bet into 2 plays. He's bet into a fish. I think it's way more likely he's just going to have like kings and aces there. Maybe some queen X. And yeah, if he does have some pocket tens, then good for him. But I think he's going to have more better hands than worse hands. I mean, some of you guys might disagree, but that was my read, and you've got to go with your reads, right? So, yeah, that's the end of that hand. We'll move on to the next one. So, this next hand is with the same player again, Spurs Mick. And I'm going to say things here that might make people think that I'm being somewhat hypocritical, so I'm going to have to try and explain myself really quite well, because all the things we just said about Spurs Mick, we're now actually going to try and bluff him versus under the gun range. So, yeah, here we go. Spurs Mick's min raised under the gun. I'm not really sure if he's got a sizing tell or not. He does like mostly min raises, but I don't know enough about him. I just know that I played him heads up a few times and nothing ever happens. He's just really, really tight. Now, whether he's got sizing issues as well, I don't really know. But anyways, I mean, tight or not, I'm not folding queen 7 suited for a min raise. So we do call, and we flop. On the face of it, fuck all. We've got backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, shit all really. And that was, if it had made like a large bet on the flop, like 60 pot, something like that, I probably would just have check folded. He elects to go with 45, which on this board, I mean, he's good. If he's playing well, he should have a pretty, incredibly wide, like small betting range here. He should be betting most of his range pretty small on this like pretty damn dry board. So I decided that, you know what, we're going to try and make a move on Mick here. You know, maybe get him off stuff like ace king, ace queen, king queen, just like random overcards, all those types of things. He's never holding a pair, not trying to make him fold a pair, just trying to get him off his like high card stuff that has me beat. I think he's that nitty enough to fold that kind of thing. I think he's nitty enough to like bet fold ace jack here, for example, ace 10, king 10, king jack, all those types of things if he's got them hands. This is one of the things I like doing a lot with my check raises, by the way. He's on dry boards, like looking for bits of backdoor equity that we can check raise and then like look to barrel off on like decent runouts for us. I do this. I also like check raise sets, of course, and check raise my strong draws. Remember, check raising range, I'd probably say is relatively well balanced. But who knows? I've never really looked massively into it, but I like to think it's reasonably well balanced. So we do elect to go for a raise. And we go for a pretty big one just to put maximum pressure on like the ace highs, king highs, things like that. Mick disappoints us and calls, and we catch, outside of catching a queen, which may or not give us the best hand, probably one of the best 2 cards in the deck. The 6 or the 7, sorry, the 4 or the 6 of spades, or the 5, not the 5 of spades, sorry, the 4 or the 6 of spades are like 2 of our absolute best bluffing cards. It doesn't connect with any high cards that have just decided to get stubborn. And it hits our range way more. I don't think Mick's got low cards in his like under the gun opening range very often, so it massively hits our range. We've got, in my opinion, we've got quite a strong like range advantage here over Mick. So I think if we check raise his flop and we don't barrel the 4 of spades turn, then the flop check raise is just fucking awful. So I think we should bet again here. I'm pretty sure we do, and I'm pretty sure we should go pretty big, upwards of like 340, I think. Let's see what we go with. Oh, I know my own game well. 340. And we get the fold from Mick. And I think that hand's interesting because I know lots of guys when I look at their stats and things with them, they've got like incredibly low check raise percentages. Effectively, they're only check raising sets and like the absolute strongest of draws, and very little else. And I think, you know, if you want to start adding some more check raises to your game, like looking for spots where you've got like backdoor equity on dry boards isn't the worst place to start, which is why I've highlighted this hand, because I think it's interesting, not maybe for this hand in particular, but well, I think it is an interesting hand. Is that these dry boards, and we check raise them, and when that doesn't really rate to hit our opponent's range very strong, and then barreling on good cards for us. I think it's a strategy that some people can start trying to mix into the games. You're going to get it wrong sometimes. You're going to like you spewing sometimes. People are going to catch you in a bluff, and you're going to think, "Ah, fuck!" But it adds more layers to your game. It's more fun, and hopefully, it just makes you that little bit harder to play against. So straight back into it on I think the very next hand on this table, we wake up with pocket nines. White equals MC squared is limp, so is John B and Big Hawk. So we make like a really big isolation raise out the big blind, and I'm fine with my sizing here. It's definitely slightly on the big side, but I'm fine taking it down pre. I'm fine trying to get heads up. I'm equally fine just like completing sometimes and just trying to flop a set. But yeah, I think like nines is probably too strong. I think with sevens and sixes and below, I'd probably just click the call. I think with nines, it's strong enough where we need to isolate. And if we're going to isolate like versus 3 people out of the small blind, then we need to make it pretty big. We want to discourage multiple callers here, really. We just want to get the pot heads up, or even just happy to take it down pre. And just like deny equity to a bunch of people. I mean, if all these guys call or what have you, we're probably an underdog to win the hand. If we like just like click the call in there, their combined equity of like all these 4 people will just have nines on who knows how much equity, 20%, 25, 30% tops maybe. So yeah, we want to try and get the pot heads up if we can. We get a call from Y equals MC squared, and then Big Hawk. I can't remember what he does actually. Big Hawk. He decides fuck it, I'm coming along too, and we get bailed out. Well, not bailed out, but we just hit gin on the flop. It's like we've got a set of nines. There's an ace out there, which, you know, can certainly be a big part of why he hooks MC squared range, less so on Big Hawk. I think Big Hawk just isolates all these decent aces pre, and I don't think he puts 9x in pre with like ace 5 suited stuff like that. So I don't think Big Hawk has an ace very often, but Y equals MC squared absolutely can. So now it's, excuse me, now it's just a matter of sizing. And the board's pretty wet, and I don't remember what I bet here, but if I bet less than £384, I think it's too small. I think we just need to bet here. If neither player has an ace, then we're getting not much value anyway, unless they have draws and things. So it's just a spot for me to just like pile a big bet in. It's not a spot to try and like make small bets. We should just pile a big bet in. The bigger the better. If I pot it, I don't mind. I just think put a big bet in here. Bigger Reggie, too small. We need to be much bigger than that on this board texture. A little bit disappointed with myself there. It needs to be bigger. I guess I was just scared of losing them, but no, it needs to be bigger, Reggie. If we'd have just made that like £1.50 bigger, like gone up to like, or even like whatever, made it £4 in, or sorry, like £4.40 even rather than £3.60. We'd have had like an extra 160 in the pot, which would have put the pot up to £14. It'd have been down to like £12 exactly. Instead of having like exactly a pot size bet, we would have made it slightly more favourable. I think ideally you want to go like upwards of £4 and then just leave yourself with like, try and leave yourself as close to a three-quarter pot turn shove as you can. But yeah, it was too small. What do we do with our sizing now? I think we just jam and rue the fact we didn't make a bigger flop bet. I'm always banging on to people about pot management. Make sure that your bets on earlier streets set up what you want to achieve on later streets. So, for example, if you're wanting to like set up a bluff on later streets, you maybe just bet small on the early streets, get your opponent to cap the range, and save yourself for like a big polarizing river bluff. And on hands where you've got a strong hand that you want to get value with on the river, on turns and rivers, bet slightly bigger so you can bet bigger on later streets. This is a good example of my not managing the pot as well as I could, and it's getting to the time, maybe this is a time where I was starting to lose a little bit of focus, maybe with the Twitter conversation had started by now. I'm not sure, we're not making excuses, it's poor pot management. I should have definitely bet bigger, and I think now we should just go all in though. No, Reggie, and now we just have to jam the river. I fucked this up. I should have bet bigger on the flop jam turn. This is not a nice hand by me. And we probably missed some value there. I mean, we bet bigger flop jam turn, maybe he calls. I think we left possibly left £7 on the table. Well, who knows? Maybe our smaller bets got us some weaker calls. Maybe we made more money because of our bet sizing mistake, but probably not. You know, maybe he just called twice with a weak ace that he wouldn't have called a bigger bet in a turn jam with. So maybe we made slightly more money in that vacuum of a hand, but overall we just need to be betting bigger on the flop and then just setting up a turn jam. But I didn't do that. But, you know, as we looked through all these hands before, I'm not just picking hands out that I played well to try and show off. Look at me, I'm great, let me coach you. I play every hand perfectly, because none of us do, and I certainly don't. And, yeah, I think it's good to put all hands in there that you just think are interesting, and then critiquing yourself. So here we have the 6-5 suited, and now we were definitely into my playing like an autopilot in zombie, because I make a mistake here pre-flop straight away, or at least I think I do, because I think I'm about to call with 6-5 suited versus a small blind min raise, versus a button min raise, which I fucking hate, to be honest. Tommy D's pretty active, he can easily squeeze here and just make us fold. It should just be a 3-bet out of fold. This probably a 3-bet. Yeah. So this is where, if I was like focused, zoned in on the games and like really in tune with what's happening, this is just like, I'm either going to fold it or I'm going to 3-bet it. Shot's pretty tight, but I'm probably still going to 3-bet 6-5 suited from the small blind versus his button min raise. And yeah, we fucked it. It's autopilot snap call. See it? There's literally a fucking snap call from me there. And you don't deserve to win. If you're fucking around on Facebook and Twitter and whatever else you're on, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, fucking anything, you do not deserve to win. I fucking deserve everything that happened from me at this point on in the session. I deserved every fucking bit of it, because if you're not going to give the game the respect it deserves and focus when you're playing, you deserve to win fuck all. You deserve to have your the value on. You deserve to miss value. You deserve to get your bluffs called. You just don't deserve to succeed if you can't be asked to put the effort in that's needed to respect the game. So yeah, there we go. Little mini rant at myself. Check, planning on check raising, I guess. He checks back. We turn a 5. I now elect to just lead out on the turn, I guess. Build a pot. Deny equity, not really care what happens because we've got like a pair and a flush draw. Nothing much to say about it. Just bet big. He calls, river's a king. And we can't bet for value here, so I elect to check. Shad bets pretty big, so he's like kind of polarizing himself here. And my thoughts were, he doesn't have Jack Queen because he absolutely c-bets that on the flop close to 100% of the time, or at least he should do. So like, but he doesn't have Jack Queen. So unfortunately for us, you know, we block some spade combination, but not massively good ones. You know, you can have some like ace high flush draws that have. Maybe he's got a hand that I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't even fucking thinking by now. All I was thinking, I'll be honest with you, my thought process was, I don't think he has Jack Queen. I guess he can have some king X, but I can make him fold king X with a river check raise. I can make him fold a 9. I can make him fold a 10. And I just, again, just thought, fuck it. I wasn't thinking much. I elected to go for like a bluff raise. You know, like, we don't block anything good that he can have, really. In fact, we don't block anything good that he can have. So I think it's a fucking awful bluff, to be frank. There's no reason to do it. It's just like it's a bad bluff, and it's a mistake I just absolutely wouldn't make if I was fully concentrating. Simple as that. I would just not go for a bluff here. It's like a hopeless bluff attempt. I mean, yeah, maybe, who knows, we maybe get him off. I don't know what. If we think he's polarised, we beat his air anyway, and he's not going to fold a better hand. I wouldn't have imagined. Maybe he's like floated king queen, king jack, stuff like that on the turn, and you know, maybe he like bet folds a queen if we check, bet folds a king. But I mean, if I was him, I maybe wouldn't bet fold a king here. Yeah, I just don't like the way I played the hand. We loaded up a big raise. We delivered it. And he called incredibly quickly with king 8 offsuit. Which when he called, I was like, what the fuck? You know, I mean, if he calls me with king queen or king jack there, then, you know, I can get my head around it. But king 8 off, I mean, good call, sir. Good call. Not really sure what his turn float's all about. I don't like how he's played the hand, basically. I think we both played the hand pretty fucking badly, but he played it better than me. Yeah, it was a complete clusterfuck of a hand. And yeah, well, as I said, we're not just here to review hands that are played well. In fact, most of the hands we're going to review are going to end probably being hands that I could have played better, and this would certainly slot into that category. So I thought there was some more hands. I thought I had 2 more hands to look at, but it turns out they weren't very interesting. They were biggish pots, but they weren't very interesting, so we're not going to look at them. Hope you guys have enjoyed the content today. Hope you've enjoyed me pretty much fucking pounding on myself for mistakes made. And I'm not saying you need to be hard on yourselves, but you need to be like really honest with yourselves. When you're reviewing your game, reviewing your hands, however you do it, you've got to be honest with yourself. You can't lie to yourself and like just blame external factors for bad sessions. I had a bad session last night, and you know, outside of a couple of coolers, which probably cost me the money. I mean, if it wasn't for those coolers, I'd have broke even. But I played badly, you know, and the session where I break even and play badly is just as bad as like a losing session almost, because we're leaving money on the table. And it's like the situation last night, I could have played a lot better, got more value in some sports, not paid off quite as much, and all these things add up too. Like when you break even, sometimes you're like, oh, I've had a break even session, whatever, let's just move on. But you've still got to review these things. You've still got to take care over your game and look after yourself. And I didn't do that last night, but we've gone ahead and we've reviewed some of the decisions from last night. We've reviewed what happened to me and why I put in a below par session. And hopefully it won't happen again for a while. It will absolutely happen again at some point because we're human beings. But yeah, I hope you guys have got something in this. I'm sure you guys will fall into the same traps time and time again. And yeah, just check yourselves, and just like try to always be as focused as possible when you're playing with real money that you can buy cheeseburgers with. Okay, take care everybody, and bye bye for now.